PrusaSlicer 2.6.1 is almost here with a couple of really awesome changes, one of which I have been waiting for way too gosh darn long. It's finally here. The tool is now updated. Oh my gosh, let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We would not normally do a video for such a small update, 2.6.1. We, of course, did a video on 2.6. We'll card to it so you can take a look. But there are a couple of really good features in this brand new release candidate, which, of course, is linked in that description down below, where you can also find that subscribe button, the like button, and hey, if you're feeling jazzy, and you want to help support the channel, Patreon, YouTube, channel members, and PayPal are available. All in the links down below as well. This has a feature that I have wanted for so long, that has upset me so often about the arrange function inside of PrusaSlicer, and that is the freaking ability to put parts inside of other parts. It is really frustrating to not have this work, and especially when you are doing big builds like the upcoming Trident 300 by LDO with filament from Polymaker. I would have loved to have this feature. This sucked to play the 3D Tetris to try to get as much as we could packed into build plates. And especially when you look at pieces like this where we have parts inside of parts. Yo dog, I heard you like parts. It is great to see this function finally coming to slicers. Oddly, Lychee Slicer has had it for a while. No one's really done anything, but that's also because Lychee is not open source. See, the cool thing is with this is that once it becomes publicly available, I expect it to be in Bamboo Studio, Orca Slicer, and potentially even Cura in the next coming weeks. This is the value of open source, and as someone that has been using and really liking Orca, the plate management is absolutely amazing. Something that we're still missing. The arrange function is still one of those things that I wish was better. Prusa has finally delivered on it, and it's a big deal. There are 3 modes currently: fast, balanced, and accurate. Of course, fast is very much the old way, similar to what we see here, where you can't really nest anything inside of other things. And then the balanced mode will give you where you are able to do interior nesting. So fear not, those of you that like printing nesting dolls, you won't have them all blow apart into oblivion anymore. And take a look at this in practical standpoints, okay? This is a model that I just whipped up real quick inside of Fusion 360. It's just a cylinder and a box with pieces inside of it. This is 2.6.0. If we go to arrange, they all come apart. We look at 2.6.1 on the other hand, we have this exact same model, and I've got it set to balanced. Let's hit arrange. Boom. And while it did move everything around and it put it within a millimeter of each other, we still have all of our pieces nested inside. So when we take a look between the two, and yes, they're both set to 1 millimeter spacing, it is a significant difference. And while there isn't a significant time difference in terms of the actual printing, we can see they're both 8 hours and 1 minute, which it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because there's definitely more travel movements here, but whatever. We can definitely see the real estate on the build plate is significantly smaller. That means mo models, mo better. We love to be able to print more things more often, and if I have to play less 3D Tetris, I'm much happier. And we can see that now arbitrary bed shapes are supported. You might think, well, Grant, why the hell do I even care about this? And I would argue that you probably don't need to, unless you have some damage to your build plate. Those of you that have decided to print PETG onto completely clean PEI might find yourself in a scenario where you've got a damaged spot on your build plate, but you still want to use it because the rest of it is okay. You can make a different build plate that excludes that area where the damage is located. At least that's pretty much the only thing that I can think about as to why you would want an arbitrary bed shape. This appears to just be the shape of the cooling fan for the Mark 3S. So I don't honestly know, but the best thing that I could think of for the arbitrary shapes is definitely if you have damage on your build plate, or you are trying to go around a bubble or try not to print in one area, this would be a great way to do it. Another big thing, and this one I wish I would have had before we just did a really big set of parts for a client, are 2 new really awesome cut features. Not only is the dovetail now added, which will allow parts to slide together, similar to what you expect for dovetails, we also have a snap style connector. That snap style connector is great because traditionally you're doing a pin and dowel system, and that just kind of allows the parts to fit. Now, personally, I have not had a great experience with the pin and dowel system. Even with a fair bit of tolerance, I can't get the dang pins to go in, so I still end up manually just gluing everything together and aligning it by hand. Having these snap style connectors, though, will help get everything to the right Z height as well, because when you're dealing with a pin or dowel system, if it's not all the way together, you don't really 100% know. For a system like this, you don't need to. With that being said, these are probably going to be pretty darn weak. 3D printing is weakest about the Z-axis, and with those pins sticking up vertically like that, there's a pretty high chance that they're just gonna snap on you. So do note. But the dovetail is really great, especially when you wanna bring 2 relatively smooth parts together. The dovetail is a great way to do that. And that not only can be used as a way to index, but the dovetail adds extra strength and extra surface area. So if you're using something like the 3D gloop, a dovetail is an awesome way to, 1, make sure you really spread that gloop around, but 2, add extra strength by utilizing the 3D printing layers to not only chemically weld together, but mechanically be stuck together as well. This is also good for components that you need to come apart, but you don't necessarily want them to just fall apart like they would with a pin and dowel. And these are not easy things to model. Like a dovetail joint, you have to have a sketch far away from the model and then cut into the model to get it. This is just done for you, with the only real bummer being that it's not a flat surface. I would like to see that you could have the key for the dovetail be completely separate. That would be great to see, and be able to adjust the angles on it so that you can get a part that does not need support material, but can still be used as a key. And while we have control over the groove angle, it's not exactly what I expected. This just tapers it so it can only go in and lock in one way. So yeah, it would be cool if we could turn the dovetail into a key itself. So PrusaSlicer people, if you're watching, that'd be great, because then you wouldn't need support material. Because especially on the rabbit that you guys show off here, you would need to support the entire bottom side of this, and that kind of sucks. If we could have a separate key that could be printed and then pushed in, that would be great. And hey, that would give you a nice little bow tie for the rabbit, you feel me? But on top of it, it would make for some really cool opportunities for inlay. With wood inlay, this has been possible for years, where you do a dovetail and you actually have a dovetail key. So it's 2 female dovetails and a double male key that goes inside of it, and that's often done with a more dark colored wood with lighter wood on the outside, or vice versa, and it tends to look chef's kiss beautiful. This to me would be an awesome opportunity for those that want to show off the seam rather than attempt to hide it. So, one man's opinion, if you will. The snap connectors, I think, are going to pretty much be a 1 or 2 time thing unless you make them relatively large. And then if they're relatively large, they're probably not going to bend all that much. My buddy Fernando, DSK001, came up with a really, really awesome snap connector mechanism that I think is, honestly, sorry, Prusa, way better than this implementation. While it does involve printing a separate piece, it is way better. On this master spool snap together design that he built, it is a really nice system where it snaps together on a pin that is in the part. I would love to see something like that implemented into a slicer, but I recognize that it takes a little bit more effort to do something like that than this. It's good to see, but I have a feeling it's gonna be relatively weak. On top of that, we have some embossing improvements, and this was taken from a Bamboo Lab implementation, and the inspiration drove Prusa to go ahead and do it themselves. It does not say that they got it from Bamboo Studio, so I don't know if they did, but if nothing else, it was definitely inspired by it. And this is something that always got me with the original projection for the embossing, where it would do it on a perspective basis rather than just wrap the text around as it is with the per glyph orientation enabled. This is great to see, and it means that you no longer have to go through the arduous effort of doing this in CAD. It is just super simple to do right inside of the slicer. And as we talked about in the 2.6 release video, this is getting closer and closer to CAD. I mean, come on. You don't have to model this crap anymore. It can be done right inside of the slicer. But it is great to see that we are still working together as a community. For those that have been living under a rock, maybe your name is Patrick.
Is it time already to ruin Squid's day?
Prusa and Bamboo are two of the biggest companies out there right now. Certainly Bamboo the fastest growing right now, and Prusa being one of the longer standing ones. And it is nice to see them still at least somewhat working together, because that means that we as a community are able to grow and print better with more opportunities from all people. Another thing that has irked me, and is someone that doesn't do a lot of multicolor printing, and in fact has thoroughly struggled with the Bamboo to do multicolor printing. The one person that sent me some stuff to mess with, you know who you are, nightmare fuel. Anyways, this option to interlock your multicolor prints is amazing. As you can see, layer after layer, it goes from one color to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And that means your pieces don't fall out of each other. The only thing you want to keep in mind is that if your part is a translucent color, this will look really weird on the inside. I'm not certain this will benefit anything in the multi-material world, but certainly in the multicolor world, it will. I think the only value that we might see is you'll be able to get really close thin lines if you were going to a multi-material like a PLA with PETG or vice versa, but have a feeling that would be a very difficult piece to remove. So grain of salt that for sure with multi-material. But for multicolor, this solves a long-standing problem that a lot of people have had, where the colors don't always overlap. So you're worried that the printer's gonna knock out one of the colors as it's printing. Of course, there are some other bug fixes and adjustments to this, and as we always do, we will link to the GitHub page for this in the description down below. We don't normally make videos on these small incremental changes when it comes to slicers, but this tool to allow the nesting of interior parts is so worth it, and would have made my journey of putting all my Voron parts together and really trying to pack the pieces in there so much easier. And yes, for those wondering, if there is a -P on it, it has been printed. So we are on the final stretch, although there's quite a few replacement parts that need to be done from print failures. But I am glad to see this, and I can expect that we're going to see this in Orca Slicer, likely Bamboo Studio, and Cura, as we discussed previously, because that is the value of open source. You gotta love it. I am excited for what Prusa is doing with PrusaSlicer. We can see that they're really starting to implement a lot of features that people look for in CAD packages, things like the ability to cut models, to add snap fittings, to add dovetails. And while they are still obviously working on this, I am absolutely looking forward to the future that is going to be PrusaSlicer and the entire community as a whole when it comes to slicing and 3D printing, because this benefits everybody. Let me know your thoughts down in those comments below. Were you also absolutely cheering when you saw the fact that nesting interior is now possible inside of PrusaSlicer? Because that one feature triggered me to make this video. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our channel supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Thank you all for what you all do to make this kind of thing possible. Remember, at the $10 tier and higher, you can join our Patreon Discord, where we're going to start trying to have a game night like once a month, where we hop into the Discord and maybe play Jackbox or something like that. So if you're interested, click those links and do that support, and I'm always there hanging out. Love to have you there as well. Right below me will be our look at PrusaSlicer 2.6, so you can take a look at what has changed and what's pretty much the same. Right next to that will be my first look at Orca Slicer, a slicer that I have really enjoyed, and I am really looking forward to it getting better as well. I'll see you down in those comments, and in the next one, take care.